Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm your host, Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss another video. Now, former Tennessee quarterback Tayven Jackson entered the transfer portal a couple days ago, and he decided to transfer to Indiana. Now, this is big news for the Indiana Hoosiers, and I'm going to break down everything that happened with this transfer decision from Tayven Jackson and what it means for the Hoosiers. Now, coming out of high school, Tayven Jackson was a four-star quarterback recruit. He was the number 198 overall recruit by the 247 Sports Composite rankings, and he was the number 13 quarterback in the 2022 class. He's 6'3", 200 pounds, so he has great quarterback size, and he had a fantastic high school career, completing 329 of 547 passes for 4,813 yards and 47 touchdowns. Tayven Jackson's more of a passing quarterback, but he does have the ability to run the football when needed. Now, ironically, Indiana was his first Power 5 offer back in 2020 when he was still in high school, and his brother, Trace Jackson Davis, plays on the Indiana basketball team, and a lot of people thought that Tayven Jackson would commit to Indiana football because he's from Indiana. His brother's on the Indiana basketball team, but he got more offers down the road from UCLA, Arizona State, and others, and Tennessee was his biggest offer, and he decided to commit to Tennessee. But unfortunately for Tayven Jackson, he was behind Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton, two quarterbacks that definitely had an impact on Tennessee this past season, and Tayven Jackson did not have any path for playing time. He did play a little bit in some games that Tennessee was winning by a lot, and he did have a rushing touchdown, and he threw a couple of nice passes, but outside of that, he had no impact for Tennessee this year. But Hendon Hooker is gone, and Tayven Jackson could have competed with Joe Milton potentially for the starting job next year, but Tennessee got a five-star recruit in the 2023 class, Nico Imaliava, and Tayven Jackson knew that he was going to have no shot for the starting job next year. He's probably going to be the third guy on the depth chart again. And Tayven Jackson decided to enter the transfer portal, and he decided over the weekend to visit Indiana, and he went to a basketball game where his brother Trace Jackson Davis had a fantastic performance for Indiana over the weekend, and he decided to commit to Indiana today. And this is big news for Indiana football because he is the highest-ranked recruit to ever play for Indiana football at the quarterback position. Indiana has had some really good quarterbacks in the past, like Nate Sudfeld and Antoine Randall and Michael Penix Jr., but none of them are ranked as high as Tayven Jackson. And obviously where you're ranked doesn't always necessarily mean that you're going to have as good of a career. This is great news for Indiana football that definitely needed a spark of life into their offense, and maybe Tayven Jackson can bring that to them. Because you look at Indiana football, in 2020, Michael Penix Jr. had a fantastic season. He was 124 of 220 for 1,645 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. And then he got hurt, and quarterback Jack Tuttle came in, threw 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. But that was the last season that Indiana had really great quarterback play, and Michael Penix Jr. was a big reason why, but he just kept getting hurt because Indiana's offensive line was not very good, and Michael Penix was definitely slowed down due to injuries. Because you look at the 2021 numbers, Michael Penix Jr. returned, but he was definitely not himself. He was 87 and 162 for 939 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. The worst season of his college career, and he got hurt again, and he decided to shut down the rest of the season, and he ended up transferring to Washington, where he led the nation in passing yards per game. So that was Indiana's last great quarterback, but unfortunately he suffered a lot of injuries, and that definitely derailed his Indiana career. But you look at the other quarterbacks that played, Jack Tuttle, Donovan McCulley, the statistics were not there, and Indiana really struggled in the passing game with those guys at quarterback. And then in 2022, Indiana got Missouri transfer Connor Bazelak, and he had a decent season. He was 235 for 426 for 2,312 yards and 13 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. He played okay for Indiana this past season, but unfortunately, Connor Bazelak is a quarterback that he's not very mobile, and Indiana's offensive line still struggled this season, and he definitely suffered a lot of sacks, and his touchdown to interception ratio was not very good because of it. He definitely did not have a lot of protection in the pocket, and he rushed a lot of throws, and that's why he had 10 picks, and the touchdowns were not super high. So overall, he had a decent season for Indiana, but Connor Bazelak decided to enter the transfer portal, and he went to Bowling Green because Indiana football just could not protect him, and things didn't really work out. Indiana had some success with Dexter Williams at quarterback, not for his throwing because you see he had 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but in the run game, he was very solid for Indiana, and that's the kind of quarterback that Indiana is going to need if they're going to have any success as long as their offensive line's bad. And Tayven Jackson, he can provide that for Indiana. He's not the biggest threat running the football, but he's kind of like what Michael Penix was before he kept getting hurt. He can step up in the pocket, make throws, and he can scramble around outside of the pocket, make a lot of plays. So, again, I think that's really going to help out Indiana a lot. And you look at Indiana's 2022 recruiting class. Indiana had the 30th ranked class in 2022, and that was the highest ranked recruiting class in Indiana football history. So that's really good news for Tayven Jackson, who's coming in to an Indiana program that actually has more talent than it probably has ever had. And then you look at the 2023 class, and yes, it's lower at number 61, but the transfer portal rankings at number 34. And Indiana's brought in some decent transfers this offseason. And Indiana definitely has a lot of skill position players at the receiver and running back spot that will definitely help out Tayven Jackson. Now, why is Tayven Jackson transferring to Indiana so important? Indiana football's had a couple of bad seasons in a row, and Indiana needs to get back to the 2019 and 2020 seasons where they had Michael Penix Jr. and things were going well and they were winning a lot of games. And since he left and entered the transfer portal, Indiana's been struggling. And now that Tayven Jackson's come in, he's going to bring in new life to the Indiana program. Tom Allen has been bringing in a lot of transfers from other programs, players that had a lot of talent coming out of high school, but they just did not work out at their previous stops. And I think with Tayven Jackson coming in for Indiana, if he can develop and become the quarterback that a lot of people thought he would out of high school, there's a really solid chance that Indiana football could be a lot better in 2023 and beyond with Tayven Jackson at quarterback because he has a lot of talent. Indiana's never had a quarterback ranked this high before, and Tayven Jackson has shown on his high school tape that he is capable of being a quarterback that Indiana needs, a guy that is mobile enough to get out of the pocket and avoid injury, and he can make all the throws. And I think that this is really important for Indiana. They might not have been able to land him out of high school with him going to Tennessee, but with the transfer portal gives and it takes away. And for Indiana here, they were able to get Tayven Jackson. And I think if Indiana's offensive line play can improve somewhat, and I think if Tayven Jackson can develop, he has a really good shot to be a great quarterback for Indiana. And Indiana's probably going to be still looking for a veteran quarterback in the transfer portal. But unless they're able to get someone that has a lot of experience as a really solid quarterback right now, Tayven Jackson will more than likely be the starting quarterback for Indiana in 2023. He more likely to not transfer to Indiana to be the backup, so I think he's going to come in immediately and play for Indiana. And Indiana has had a rough couple of years in college football, but with Tayven Jackson, maybe the future will be bright for Indiana in 2023 and beyond as long as he stays healthy and he can live up to his high school potential. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below what you think about Tayven Jackson transferring to Indiana and what you think he can provide for the Hoosiers, and I will see you next time.